Hi, Paul here from Spitfire Audio. I've got something super exciting for you today. It's a free library. It's SSO Discover. This is the Discover edition of Spitfire Symphony Orchestra, recorded with our friends in the beautiful Lyndhurst Hall at Air Studios. It was where we recorded the original bespoke private library, but this was the first time that we had created something that was going to be for sale to the general public and to music makers all over the world. We made a lot of interesting discoveries while we were recording the private library, and so we recorded this slowly, month by month, adding different sections. We called it then the British Modular Library because we were recording it literally module by module. But as it gradually built up, it became consolidated into what we now know as SSO. So, what is in there? So there are 44 instruments in Discover, 74 techniques across those. And these are kind of the basic building blocks that you need to write orchestral music. Now, we've limited it in some ways. So in some cases, the range is slightly restricted. And in some cases, there are only 2 round robins. And for example, you only have the decker tree. However, what we've done is we've left everything else at its kind of full quality. So all of the dynamics are there, all of the different vibrato controls are there where they are in the original library. And we've put in a couple of performance patches for you to experiment with those, to really feel what those are like under your fingers. It's a very substantial Discover library. And if you compare it to BBCO Discover, that was a very different project. The idea for that was that it could be downloaded all over the world by children very, very quickly and easily. And it has a UI which is designed to be literally your first steps as a very young student into understanding the orchestra. So that entire library is 250 megabytes or something. This is in the gigabytes range. So it's a very much more substantial offering. Where there is a grayed out element of the UI, for example, the microphones beyond the tree mic, you've got the close mic, and sometimes there's a leader mic and things like that. For those things, those are grayed out here, but you can see where they are. You can see what you would have if you had the full SSO. And also, so that you can see what the other articulations sound like that are not included, we've put a single demo note from each one in there as well. So you can explore, if you're not familiar with orchestral sounds, what exactly each articulation is called and what that articulation sounds like as well. BBCO Discover has had over 1 million downloads, which is staggering. And I hope that as many people are going to try out SSO Discover and be able to take their first steps in writing orchestral music as well. So let's have a look at the UI. So the UI has 3 areas. Down here, you've got the controls. So for example, here are the mic signals. And as I mentioned, this one has just the decker tree. And up here, you've got the individual performance controls. And these are all controlled by CC. And if you control click, you'll see what CC is assigned. So in this case, dynamics is assigned to CC number 1. So when I have that mapped onto a controller, I can control that like that. Also vibrato. And then there are a few other controls. The releases, so how long you want the release to sound after the note, the tightness of the short notes, and expression is kind of like an overall volume control. So I also have that mapped. It's sometimes quite useful. In this middle section, you have all of the different articulations that are in the main library. And the ones that are available here are the longs here. Then you can see there's a series of demo note patches. Then you've got the spiccatos, which is a very tight short note. You've got the pizzicatos, which is a lovely kind of plucked note. And you've got the tremolos, which is the bow going backwards and forwards very fast and has a very characteristic sound. So let's just dive straight in and have a play. Now, as you can hear, I'm controlling both the dynamic and the level of vibrato. So if I leave the dynamic up the top and go back down with the vibrato, so at the bottom you have a very, very non-vibrato sound. So the players are not playing any vibrato at all, and it has a very kind of still quality. And as you bring in the vibrato, the sound starts to bloom. This is an incredibly useful control. It really allows you, combined with the dynamics, to bring a real musicality to every single phrase that you play. An example of the demo note, which is middle C in this case, for the Long's Consordino. So as you can hear, you can see even on this single note, the full range of dynamics and vibrato is present. So lovely, bright, tight spiccato, short sound. It's got the full range of dynamic here as well, but just 2 round robins. Now, even though you only have the decatree and you only have the 2 round robins, because you've got the full range of dynamic, you can write a huge amount of music with this. So it really is very, very useful as an addition to your library, even if you use other orchestral libraries as well. Finally, let's listen to the trems. And we have these same levels of functionality across the other string sections as well. So just to note that violins is the violin 1 section from SSO. There is also a violin 2 section, which is recorded with different players, seated in the correct seating. So within the full library, you have all of that extra stuff as well. An absolutely beautiful cello section. It really goes down whisper quiet, and then of course our basses. Now, what else have we got in this library? Well, we've got something in here, solo strings, and it's a range-restricted version of the solo violin performance patch from SSO. Now, what is a performance patch, I hear you say? It's one that you can play and not worry about how you're playing, but it will just work things out for you and make it sound great. For example, so you can hear that it's putting the intervals in between the notes as I'm holding notes down and playing other notes. But it's also, if I play a short note, it gives me a nice, tight, crisp, short note as well. There is a modelled mute that you can put on. Which gives you that lovely muted sound. There's also all the controls over dynamics and vibrato. There's also a bow emphasis control, which gives you that really exaggerated change between the notes. If you want to play and lock yourself into a specific type of attack or interval, you can simply click these lock controls that appear next to the notes, and then you will only hear those. And you can switch them off again that way. Vibrato, again, is displayed here so you can see exactly what's going on and which of the playing styles you're triggering. Now let's have a look in the Symphonic brass folder. We've got all of the usual instruments that you would expect in here. For the trumpets, we have the long and the staccato articulations, and they sound like this. Moving across to our horns. And we have our solo horn performance patch. Moving down to the tenor trombones. So useful having that full dynamic range there. We've got the bass trombone solo. So again, a beautiful full sound from that bass trombone. You can create really lovely section sounds like that. And that lovely kind of chorale, very soft, gentle sound that you can get from the trombones. Finally, our tuba solo. Now again, just as an example on the demo note here, you can check out the multi-tongue. So if you play harder, you get a longer note at the end. If you play shorter, you get that tighter end. And that's the quad tongue, and then there's a triple and a double. Check out this lovely, lovely flute. Oboe. Of course, you've got the staccato on these as well. The clarinet. The cor anglais performance patch. The lovely bass clarinet. And the bassoon. And last but not least, the piccolo. What about the percussion? Well, you've got a ton of incredibly useful stuff in here. It's laid out with the coloured keys. And if you go into each of these individual instruments, you'll see you can reset the key that it's working on, but you can also see exactly what articulations you have. And There are lots more drums in the percussion section of the full library and a whole load more articulations as well. So it's absolutely huge, but this gives you a really great taste and some really useful sounds. You've got a really useful piano. And a fantastic harp. And as you can see, you've got the pedal control and the harp pedaling, unusual when you haven't seen it before, system where you can set, for example, a scale on here. So if we wanted to set, let's set a D major scale. So we pull the C and the F down to make them sharp. And this affects the white notes. So I can now play across the white notes. I'll hold the sustain pedal down. And I've got a D major scale. If I want to make a D minor scale, then let me put a B flat in it just for fun. And we've got that. So you can see when I hit a B, I get that B flat. And one thing that's really lovely about this is if you play a B sharp, now anyone who knows their music theory will know that B doesn't have a black note above it. So B sharp is C. So now you get the same note when you play that B and C. And that can be really interesting because if we do the same thing for E and we make that an E sharp as well, we get a pentatonic sound. Again, some lovely stuff there for the toys section. We've got a beautiful but restricted range Celeste, but again, you've got the full dynamic. And similarly for this fantastic Glock. And you'll see that here we've got two-handed mapping on. If I turn that off, it removes that extra copy, but you have two copies on the keyboard so you can play very fast. A really beautiful sounding marimba. Really useful timp. Very, very wide dynamic range there for you to play with. The vibraphone. The Xylo. And here we have some unpitched metal sounds. Which brings us to the final folder, which is mixed ensembles. And this is a kind of fun patch that just gives you the full orchestra with everything, all bells and whistles going. And then there's a tuned percussion. So one thing to note is that if you write something using Discover and then you upgrade to SSO and you drag that in, or maybe you're using Discover on a laptop for traveling, it's very simple. You simply drag across the patch from SSO that corresponds to the patch that you're using here. In terms of what you get in SSO beyond what's in Discover, there's obviously all of the articulations, all the mic positions, but there's a huge amount of extra content. There's lots of performance patches across the whole orchestra that you've got a little taste of here. There's the other two solo strings, the viola and cello. There's a ton of extra percussion. It's lots and lots more mixed ensembles, a huge folder of blended ensembles with different sections of the orchestra blended together. Lots of useful stuff there. So it's a giant amount of content. And I think probably about the download size is about 65 times the download size of SSO Discover. So that gives you an idea of the amount of extra stuff that you've got in there. So I'm dragging in all of the strings here, and I'm just clicking on the logo there to shrink down the size. They're all set to Omni, so they'll react to whatever I play in. So we've got everything playing at the moment. Now I could set kind of a middle dynamic, a middle vibrato, so I can use my both hands on the keyboard. Now, before I start playing, I'm just going to note that the key switches start here, and they will stretch up into the playable range of the basses. So you want to be careful about that. If I play in the middle here, you can see an octave down, we're still okay. An octave down, we're still okay. But if I go below there, I'll hit the key switches, which will change the articulation for the violins. So you'll want to move those out the way if you're going to use the bottom end of the basses in your full keyboard. You just click here and drag to move them maybe up to the top end of the keyboard. But this is what that whole full string section sounds like. It's really beautiful, and of course you've got all the amazing dynamics. So you can have a lot of fun with this. You can get all kinds of sections going together, and it means that if you're thinking about getting this to use with your hardware for live use or something like that, you can set it up really easily. You don't have to have a DAW. You can just run this standalone in a contact player and on a laptop or something like that. Connect it to your keyboard, master keyboard, set up your patches the way that you want to have them, and then off you go. So there's a huge amount of stuff in SSO Discover. It really is super high quality. Yes, there's restrictions on areas of the library, of course, but you can use it to write music and you still get that full quality that you would get from the full SSO library. So I hope you're going to have a lot of fun with this. Looking forward to seeing what people do with it. And it's also a great celebration of our biggest selling orchestral library and our special relationship with Air Studios and the amazing Lyndhurst Hall, where I have spent countless days, and many of the team members of Spitfire have also spent countless days in a beautiful, beautiful studio. So enjoy SSO Discover. Go to the website. You can download it. Super easy. You just have to sign up and then you can download and have fun playing. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.